Welcome to the MBU Football Coaches Show. My name is Danhoff, and I'm joined here with Coach B. Coach, let's get started on last Saturday's action. It was the season opener right here at home on Spartan Field, as the Spartans fell in a very close game, 6-2. For a second there, I think I'm calling a Spartan baseball game, but the Spartans fell a little short, 6-2 versus William Penn against the Statesmen. And Coach, and now that you had a chance to look at the film and reflect, kind of what's your reaction now as you looked at the film on Saturday's game?
Felt like it was when I came up here on Saturday afternoon. Frustrating. Probably even a little bit more frustrating just because of the fact we were able to see just how many missed opportunities we had and some of the plays that we left out on the field, especially offensively. I think also defensively, even though we played really well and kept points off the board, there were some things that really jumped out that we could have probably held them to even fewer yards, not put them in position to score some of those points if we did little things different. So a lot to get fixed, a lot to get cleaned up on, but it's one of those situations that you can't dwell too much in the past and watch the film, get things fixed, and move forward.
So again, it was the first game of the season, and obviously you've got certain expectations and goals every week. And talk to us about the things that did stand out to you that you thought you did very well, particularly coming into obviously your first, game of 2023.
Well, I think the number one thing that jumps out is defensively. Was really proud of how those guys played. I thought that they played a 60-minute ball game.
Yep.
Every time they came over on the side, they were positive. They were communicating with us as coaches about things that they were seeing or things that maybe we need to tweak and get adjusted. And I was really proud of how they played. Obviously, we have a veteran group there, and it showed up on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was happy with how we did in the secondary. They didn't throw the ball a ton,
right.
But we did some good things in the secondary. Caleb Ford getting that interception, and again, our front seven proved to be why they're pretty darn good, and was happy with that. I was excited with our special teams. We didn't get a ton to show in all the special teams, but Odie had a great game. Was named the Heart of America Special Teams Player of the Year, or Player of the Week rather, and
yep.
That's a big deal for him and a good way for us to start off in the new conference. I thought he did a tremendous job, and overall I think coming into week one, I'm always concerned about what does our game discipline look like, what does our conditioning look like, and
right.
We came out of there with 4 or 5 penalties, 40 some yards, which isn't too bad for week one.
Right.
And, turnovers, I thought our ball security was pretty good. Obviously we had the 3 turnovers in the pass game, which we've got to get fixed, but you always worry about what your ball security is like when it's live, and
right.
What does our conditioning look like. And we didn't have guys cramping. It was a warm day, but I felt like we were in good shape and ready to play a 4-quarter game.
Yeah, what was really exciting about Odie is, again, career best for him. He had a 75-yard punt that landed on the 4-yard line of the opponent. And then late or middle to late fourth quarter, you got to admit, the big hanging looper gets it down at the 1-yard line. And it just was so exciting to see your defense just rise up to the occasion, because on those third downs, your efficiency on defense was pretty much outstanding.
Yeah, we have goals that we set defensively that we look at every week, and this is probably one of the best games we've had in regards to hitting those goals.
Yeah.
We did not hit every goal we have. Third down, we had just missed. We say 35% or less on third down, and I think it finished at like 36.8%. So we were right there. We missed our pass game goal by 7 yards.
Okay.
So we were right there on that
right.
one too. So we practice those situations. Those are situations that we stress with them. We call that a scoring zone. Anytime we've got a team backed up, that's now not only a defensive scoring zone for us in regards to potentially getting a safety, but it's also a scoring zone because we can really put our offense in good field position to get points on the board. So those are situations we emphasize. When they went out there, we were emphasizing. We know what's kind of at stake for us there, and
right.
I thought they did a pretty good job.
All right, so let's flip to the offensive side of things. Obviously, early you did establish a run with Demo, obviously Darius Morrison. But then the Statesmen seem to kind of, for at least for a good next portion of the game, seem to be pretty effective of slowing down your run, because there was a long stretch that we were commenting during the broadcast. Your running backs were only averaging about 2.7 yards after the first few series. They seemed to make some adjustments. But then again, you've had two very good drives that ended in interceptions. Certainly one was in the red zone. And so as you looked at tape and you're looking at getting ready for this week, what kind of adjustments are you going to make on offense so that the Spartans can definitely get into the end zone and score on offense?
Well, I think one of the biggest adjustments that we have to evaluate as a staff, and something we talked a lot about on Saturday, is personnel adjustments. It's not so much a scheme adjustment, but if guys aren't going to go out there and do their job and be trustworthy and be consistent in what they do, then we have to replace them. And so there's been a lot of open jobs, taking a look at different guys in different situations, and our offense, I thought, had a really good camp. Mm-hmm. They had some good scrimmages, did some good stuff, but didn't come out and perform. And what we've talked about is what the expectation, what the standard is. And the expectation for our entire team is that we go out and we win every game that we go out on the field. And now we know that that's not going to be always true, but we have to go out with that belief, and we have to go out with that expectation amongst everybody that guys are going to do their jobs and that they're going to show up when the lights are on. And if you can't, then maybe you're not ready, and that's not a knock on them. It's just, hey, we've got to find somebody that will perform, when the lights are on and it's game time, and we just didn't do a good enough job at that. We didn't block well enough. We had some backs that at times missed the hole. But up front, we've got to be more physical. We had too many drops in the pass game. We had too many misreads at the quarterback position. So, there's a lot of those situations where it's, I think you always sit back, and I always expect that our staff, and I'm always hard on us first. Right. But we also have to let that trickle down and hold the guys accountable to not doing their job, and that we know that they're capable of more.
Well, with that, obviously, I know that you've been addressing those issues. I also had a chance to talk to your offensive coordinator before the broadcast. Obviously, you've looked at a lot of things, and you guys have made some adjustments throughout the week. So let's move forward now to this Saturday. Game time is at noon. You're going to be in Iowa, and you're going to be taking on the number 3 team in the NAIA at Grandview. And, what have you seen from Grandview on tape as you get ready?
Well, they're very well coached. I think Coach Woodley does a great job. He's been around the game his whole life. I think his dad was a coach, spent time at Iowa State. Yeah. He's been around the game, very, very knowledgeable. These guys are you watch them on film, you can tell they're well coached. They do the little things right. Their footwork is right. They come up, they are aggressive and very physical on both sides of the ball. I think, from our standpoint, and things that we've got to look at and continue to emphasize is just, we've kind of been there before, and not that that's taking anything away from Grandview, but, we've been in games where we're playing number 5, whoever that might be, number 7, whether that's Marion, St. Xavier, St. Francis over the years, So I think they're very similar to those type of teams. They're very well coached. They've got great athletes. They're big up front. They're physical. But if you're going to be ranked in the top 10 at any level, that's what you're going to get. Right. And that is the goal and expectation for us, is that we work to get to that point. And I know that that's the expectation of our new athletic director, and it couldn't excite me more. I love the fact that, that is where we need to be. And are we there? Are we a long ways away? Well, maybe not. But I think that, the number one thing that has to start is that we have to have belief within our locker room that we can get these things done. And I had a conversation with the team yesterday, is that, as a staff, we believe in those guys. We believe in the guys in the locker room that they're capable of making big time plays. We know they're capable of it. We've seen them do it. Right. They've got to believe in themselves. They've got to hold each other to that, and really go out and expect that they're going to make those plays, rather than kind of be surprised. So that's where our head's at. I think we've got to continue to control what we can defensively. We know we've got to go out and stop the run. They're a very physical, run-oriented team. Offensively, they're not very complex on defense, but they're very sound. which makes it challenging. So, you can't make those mistakes. You can't run wrong routes. You can't have drop passes. You've got to be very sound and consistent in what you do. And if we do that, we know that we have the guys in that locker room to go out and give them a heck of a game. And again, whether it's number 3, whether it's the worst team in the league, it doesn't really matter to us. Our expectation is the same, and that's something that we're really trying to hammer home with these guys.
Yeah, one of the stats that was interesting from last week was time of possession. They held the ball a third more than you guys did. And again, with now Grandview, run first team, obviously another team that can easily eat up a lot of clock. Does that kind of change what you're going to do to some degree, knowing that maybe the game's going to be a little shorter, you're not going to have as many possessions when teams can do that kind of ball control? I mean, last week, your opening drive on defense, I forget how many plays, it was like 12 or 13 plays when they got the field goal, but time of possession clock was 8:55. That's more than half of the quarter taken up just in one drive.
Yeah, and I think the challenge to us is don't let them get in those situations, right? I mean, if they're a run-oriented, use the clock, shrink the game type of team, then it's even more important that defensively we go out and get 3 plays and out. Get the ball back to our offense. It's even more important that we don't give up 13-play drives. So I think that's double-sided. I don't know really initially that we want to change our offensive identity, because I think we've got to get in a rhythm and a flow and try and go after them. But it is important for the defense that we go out and get those stops so that we can give our offense as many opportunities as possible.
All right, I always love asking this question because I can remember our days back when we used to play. What did you tell your team as you're getting ready for a road game, which is much different than playing here at home? Because it's so different, especially those younger guys, the first time on a trip.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we talked about this week is, again, just that belief and expectation and what the standard is. You have we have a great opportunity to go and knock off the number 3 team. I mean, we're not changing the schedule, and that's who we play, that's who we face, and we've got to go in and go toe to toe. And I think one of the biggest things that we've seen over the years is, especially in the last 4 to 5 years, is we know that guys aren't going in, nervous about playing that. I think these guys, they've been in these games. It just comes down to an execution and doing the little things. So, being on the road, sometimes there's a little less pressure than being at home. You get a little bit more time with your teammates and, focusing on football. So, our expectation is that we go out on the road, we handle it as professionals, like it's a business trip. We have a lot of veterans, and my expectation is we will, and we'll go out and give it our best shot. And like I said, keep the expectation and the standard high.
Absolutely. Again, we know that on any given week, we know anything can happen. I mean, obviously, look at your alma mater. What happened last week in obviously, Division I football with your Buffaloes upsetting TCU, and the Buffaloes were more than a 20-point underdog. And again, anything can happen on any given week, and that's a great message to send to your team. Well, Spartan fans, you can catch all the action. If you just check our social media, we'll have the links provided so you can see the live broadcast as the Spartans head to Iowa to take on the number 3 Grandview this Saturday at noon. For Coach B, I'm Guy Danhoff. I want to thank you for watching it all right here on the Spartan Digital Network. Thank you.